Hey everybody, and welcome back to the MD Investor Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Butler, and today I want to talk about the subscription to live. Now, a lot of people might not think about stuff like this, but we're going to get into it today and show why it's important for investing. So, let's talk about it. Now, this is something easy to consider, but at the same time, a lot of people misconstrue or don't even think about it really. So, a subscription to life is literally what it costs you to live on a daily basis, a monthly basis, a weekly basis, or whatever it takes you on a yearly basis. So, understanding what your subscription to live is going to help you understand why investing matters. Because when it comes to investing, the goal of investing is to get somebody else to pay your subscription for you. Now, humans are the only species on the planet that have to actually pay to live on the planet, which sounds insane, but at the same time, that's how our society works. That's why it's not chaotic. That's why we're not animals. That's why we're not foraging in the forest or whatever it may be. We live in a construct in a society where everything has a price to it. And in order to meet those prices and meet those demands so that we can have a very standard, comfortable way of living, we have to pay that subscription. So whatever it may be, you want access to the internet, you're gonna have to pay something monthly. You want to be able to watch Netflix, you have to 1, pay for the internet, 2, have a house, 3, have a TV, 4, have something to lay or sleep on, or whatever you're doing while you're watching Netflix. And then on top of that, you also have to be able to pay for all of these things on a monthly basis, which means that you need either some type of job, some type of income, something in order to keep up with all these subscriptions. This is going to be your basic monthly cost of living. Most people call this a budget, but whatever you call it, you have to pay for your subscription to live on a regular basis. Otherwise, you'd be homeless. And even then, it's still going to cost you something. It might not cost you money, but it'll cost you comfort, it'll cost you convenience, it'll cost you time, it'll cost you possibly your health if you're out in the cold or you're out in the weather where you're sick all the time. And most times, if you're associated with having some kind of drug problem or drinking problem, it's going to cost you whatever you have to pay in order to keep up with your addiction. So as of now, let's talk about why being an investor matters. Because being an investor, the goal of being an investor and creating wealth is to have somebody else pay that subscription for you, no matter how big, no matter how small. When it comes to wealth, people who are wealthy are generating income from people who owe them money. And people who are poor or middle class are losing money because they owe more people than people owe them. And that's basically what money is a constant transaction between people who owe someone and people who are owed. In this case, you want to have as many people possible owe you money. So when you say that, it sounds like, what are you, like in the mafia or something? Or why why am I out here saying, hey, you owe me money? Where's my money, Brian? So I don't know if you guys watch Family Guy, but that's my little Family Guy reference. Someone owes you money, and this is how you continue to have your subscription for life paid for. So let's make that easy. You own real estate. If you're owning real estate and people are paying rent on that, they're going to have a mortgage. That mortgage is going to be paid for by someone else. So in this case, that's a 2-part or 3-part transaction. You owe the bank. You owe a loan on that property. You are in debt to that property. That is your liability. Now that property is being rented out by whoever is renting the doors. Let's say it's a 3-door, a 4-door, 5-door, whatever it is. Now the people who are renting that location from you, they owe you money. So in this case, they pay you, you pay the bank. Now if there's money left over, you also are paid the difference, and that's a positive cash flow situation. So now what's happening is you have a subscription to live, and that subscription is being paid for by somebody else. Now here's the thing that people don't understand. Anything and everything in life can be a business. Anything and everything in life can generate you money. Anything and everything in life can be an investment. Now, the thing is, how do you make what you're looking for, and how do you make what you're trying to build an investment for you? Not everyone is interested in the same thing, but this is a planet with billions of people. There's bound to be, even if it's less than 1%, even if it's 0.5% of people in the entire planet who like what you like, that means hundreds of thousands of people like the same thing that you like. And you don't need all of them to like what you like. You just need a few of them to like what you like and be loyal customers. This is how business operates. So in this case, if you're like, hey, I really love anime, I love watching cartoons, this is what drives me crazy, I love watching it all the time. So that means other people also watch it, otherwise no one would create it. since other people like watching it, then people buy subscriptions to it. They buy the fan art, they buy the manga, whatever it might be. In this case, think of other stuff, simple things. People like candles, people like ice cream, people like soft things like pillows. Therefore, everyone is paying for these things. And when they're paying for it, they become customers. And when they're customers, they become assets on somebody else's balance sheet. That is the goal. So it doesn't matter if you're selling something. It doesn't matter if you like something very particular. So if you're like, hey, I really, really love Jordans, or I really love Nikes, or I really love Gucci bags, you can have an investment doing that same thing. Why? Because buying and reselling is something that everyone does. A lot of people use Amazon. Most of the time, the majority of stuff that's from Amazon is from third-party sellers. So even like myself, when I sell things on Amazon, there are things that I buy from one person and then sell again on Amazon to other people. It might be privately labeled, it might be whatever it might be. So clothing companies, perfect example. You can go buy a t-shirt from Alpha Brada for like $1.50 per shirt and buy 100 shirts like that. Right, so 100 shirts would cost you let's say $150 for all of these shirts, or not even that. They'll be like $15 or something like that for all of these blank shirts, decent quality shirts. Now, all of those shirts go to Nike. Nike puts a swoosh on it, and then all of a sudden, that same shirt that they cost $1.50 for each shirt, now they're selling for $25. That is a significant markup. Nike is starting to make its product, and now everyone is paying to wear these Nike shirts, and great, now Nike's making profit. Now, other people can do the same thing. So whatever it may be that helps you pay your subscription for life is what we're going to be aiming for. You have to understand exactly what your subscription is going to cost you and what makes you comfortable. So if at your house you love to watch Netflix, if you have kids, your subscription is going to be more expensive. If your kids love Disney Plus, it's going to be more expensive. If you like to shop at Trader Joe's, it's going to be more expensive. If you have a Kia Soul versus you drive a Tesla or a Porsche, it's going to be more expensive. That's going to it's going to cost you a certain amount of insurance. It's going to cost you a certain amount of fuel, or it's going to cost you having solar panels on your house. Whatever it may be, your subscription costs you something. Your mortgage costs you something. Your rent costs you something. So you're going to have to add up all of these expenses, and you're going to have to see what your income is and then how much is left over. That's telling us whether or not you're cash flowing in a positive situation or a negative situation. A lot of times people cash flow negatively and don't even realize it, which means that you're now obligated to continue whatever you're doing to keep up with your subscription. So a lot of people don't have a ton of passion about paying this subscription, right? Like, how many people are just passionate about waking up and paying their bills? Like, you don't wake up in the morning with like a huge smile on your face and you're like, man, I can't wait to pay my mortgage this year. You know, no one has that type of passion. People might love their house or love their lifestyle or love whatever it is. However, you're obligated to make an income. Now, if you're paying for your subscription the hard way, which means that everything that you do based on earned income is you paying your subscription the hard way, which means that you're not quite there when it comes to wealth and financial freedom. You will get there. However, you only get there if you start realizing that that's what's occurring. So now, let's say you are a doctor. Let's say you're a nurse. That means, let's say you're working, if you're a nurse, maybe you're working 3 or 4 days a week, and you have a great system, you're getting paid well, but most of the time, maybe you're spending your life subscription, maybe you're enjoying yourself, maybe you're traveling a lot, maybe you're like, you and the girls go out to brunch, or you and your friends go out to the ball game, whatever it may be, and then you travel a lot. So that means that there's not a lot of investments happening. You're spending the money for your subscriptions, for your freedom, from your hard-earned income, which means that there's no point in time in your immediate future where you're like, well, I don't have to do this anymore. So if there's no set goal to where you're like, well, I have a 3-year plan or 5-year plan where I never have to work as a nurse again if I don't want to. And if I do that, it's extra income, or I just want to speed up the process. So that should be the goal when you're working. So it's not to continue to work forever until you get too tired or you get too old. The goal is to pay for the subscription using income from other people. So you use your job. Your job's only purpose is to make sure that you can start having investments that are going to pay for that subscription for you. Most people are like, well, my job pays for your retirement. Great. This is what we're going to do. Do some homework. Look for people around you who do what you do and have the lifestyle that you hope for. if no one in that room has the same lifestyle that you hope for, if people don't have nicer cars that you want, or a nicer house that you want, or they're retired, or they never have to work, or they only work part-time, that means that's not what you want to emulate. You want to emulate the success that you're aiming for. You do not want to replicate the success that you already have. Let me say that one more time. You want to emulate the success that you're searching for. You don't want to replicate what you already have, which means if somebody else doesn't have the lifestyle that you're looking for, do not replicate that process. So when I started working, I realized that none of the other doctors were in the same boat that I was in. Like all of them, like we were all in the same boat. Like no one was happy. Everyone was tired. They were working all the time. Most of us felt burnt out, or they felt like they were working nonstop. And then they always complained about the same thing, feeling like they don't get paid enough for this, feeling like it's not something that they wanted to do. And then most of us did not have a lot of assets on our balance sheet. There are doctors that I come across who had some of them owned property, some of them had businesses, but that was few and far between. Like out of hundreds of doctors at different hospitals, because I travel and do medicine at different places part-time, all of the people that I was working with full-time, they didn't have what I was looking for. It was only the select few, and the select few are the people that I hunted down. I was like, hey, you know what I noticed? I'm driving this old Nissan, and you have a Rolls Royce, but I don't always see you in this hospital. Why is that? And the reason is because, you don't just work here, you own this clinic. Or you own that dialysis machine, and you own all the dialysis machines in this hospital, yet you don't work as a nephrologist. You don't do this all the time. You own those machines, and guess what? The people at the hospital are leasing those machines. So now you're not paying for that Rolls Royce. The machines are paying your lease and your subscription on life. So now your life is free. You see what I'm saying? So okay, you're making $60 million a year because you own multiple dialysis clinics, or you have a primary care service. Shout out to one of my attendings that from Brooklyn who owns one of these major corporations in terms of having healthcare clinics. So he has like 14 clinics or something like that. So anyone who knows who I'm talking about, you'll know who I'm talking about. But he owns all of these clinics, and now he's paying other healthcare providers to replicate himself, right? So he's not sitting there working at each location. He's like, hey, I'm making this much from this location, and then you're getting paid this much from that location. So let's think about a famous business model that does this and makes other people pay their subscription for them. Chick-fil-A. How many of you guys love Chick-fil-A? You like going to Chick-fil-A, hey, how can we be of service, or whatever, it's my pleasure, whatever it may be. Chick-fil-A has a very brilliant model in what it does. So unlike McDonald's, where McDonald's is a real estate entrepreneur kind of setting where they focus on real estate, Chick-fil-A does something very interesting. They focus on a leasing model. They still do own the real estate. However, their franchise is very easy to get into. Now, if you own a McDonald's franchise, you actually own the franchise. You're coming with $250,000 and you're paying for the money, and then you become the owner of that franchise. It is individually owned by you. Now, you guys are a chain. You're going to pay the chain as well for them being a part and having the percentage to use their royalties and their names and their lookalikes or whatever it may be. Chick-fil-A is a little bit different. So now with their royalties, you're paying 15% on top of all of your gross profit. However, you're not the actual real franchise ownee. Most of the time what they have is what they call operators. So in this case, you pay $10,000, and when you pay that $10,000, you get the option to be a part of their service. You do your application, they go through, they weed people out, they pick. In this case, the operators make about $240,000 a year. But what you did was you paid $10,000 to get a $240,000 operating job, which means that you're not the franchise owner, you're just the manager. So you paid to have a fixed manager position. However, if you still perform your job poorly, you can be fired and released from that position, which most people don't realize unless you actually own the franchise. You don't follow the rules and regulations and the policies set in place by Chick-fil-A, then you get fired. That's how it works. So why would you buy a job that you can get fired? Versus if you actually paid to own the franchise from McDonald's, no one's firing you. You own that franchise. Now, of course, there's still policies and rules in place to where you can't go to that McDonald's and you're like, I own it, I'm only serving Mexican food or Whoppers. No, that defeats the policies of McDonald's. You're leasing their likeness and stuff like that. You can't violate that. But no one can directly fire you as the owner of something, right? If you build something from scratch, no one can fire you from that thing that you built. And that's another thing. is in your life, you're paying for these subscriptions. Maybe you have medicine to pay for. Maybe you have daycare to pay for. Maybe you're raising your kids and they need to be in private school. Whatever it may be, it costs you a certain amount every single month to live the life that you want to live. Now we have to think about whether or not you can keep up with that prescription or that subscription, whatever you want to call it. But in this case, how do you keep up with it? Do you have to go to work? Do you have to earn your income in order to do that? And if you do have to earn your income and then you have to get paid on a regular basis, what happens if they let you go? Now, a lot of doctors got their jobs taken in COVID or got fired during COVID. And some of the reasons they got fired was from complaining. So I've seen this happen as well. Doctors like, hey, we don't have masks, we don't have this kind of equipment, this place sucks, this hospital's this and this and this. And there's guidelines where you can't talk bad about certain hospitals or you can't negatively impact that structure. And if you talk too negatively about it, they can let you go. It does happen. In this case, imagine that. You're working at this hospital, you've been here for 10, 15 years, and then you say, hey, this hospital sucks. You guys aren't taking care of us. This is a health violation. We're in danger. We need more equipment. All of a sudden, they let you go. What happens now? If you have that new car and it's still something that you're paying on, that's part of your subscription, and you need money to keep up with that. You need money to keep up with your mortgage. Maybe you have been there for 15 years, but you owe 15 more years on your mortgage. Now you have to find another job. And when you're finding another job, that means you're at the whims of someone else. They're the ones responsible for your health care. They're the ones responsible for your possible retirement. They're the ones responsible for everything. When you give up the responsibility of taking care of your life for yourself, when you give up your responsibility and let someone else take care of you, that means you're also giving up the rights to have your own freedom. You have to do what they say. You have to work how they tell you to work. But when you have your own subscription to life paid for by things that you own, that's what true freedom is. That's the difference. And that's what a lot of people miss the boat on. They're like, well, it's a risk. Everything is a risk. You always see the quote, right? The biggest risk of all is not taking one or not taking one at all, because then if you take no risk, there's no rewards. The risks come with rewards, and the rewards come by taking a risk. If you take no risk whatsoever, then you get no rewards. All you do is you continue to work and you know what the outcome is going to be. You know what it costs every single month for your Netflix until they tell you it costs more, right? They're like, hey, Netflix is $10.99. Then they go, it's $12.99. Then they go, it's $14.99. Then they go, it's $20.99. Like, they can make it whatever they want. And here's the thing. You're either going to complain about it or you're going to do whatever you want. Like, you're going to pay for it or you're going to complain about it, still pay for it because you still want to watch it, or you're going to cancel it and start reading more books, whatever it may be. But that's the point is, life has a subscription to it, and in order to get it paid for properly, you have to invest your money. Now, if you want to do something simple, you don't want to deal with toilets, you don't want to deal with tenants, maybe you just deal with stocks. Use the stocks that you buy to pay you dividends, and once you start getting enough income from dividends, you use that money to pay for your subscription for life. This is why some people don't have to work when it comes to investing. Investing can be full-time income. And all you have to think about is how much does it cost to buy the lifestyle that you want. So on the next episode, what we'll talk about is what it costs in order to buy your freedom. And what that means is once we actually start diving down into the numbers are what's going to tell you what it costs to be free. Okay? So if you're using stocks, if you're using real estate, whatever it may be, you're taking your hard-earned income because that takes you physically working somewhere, and you're using that money to invest. Once you've invested into what you need to have enough money to pay for your subscription for living, now we start working on buying your freedom. And that freedom means that you don't have to go to work every day. Maybe you can work part-time, you can be semi-retired, or maybe if you really do love your job, if you love teaching, you love dealing with students, you love speaking, whatever it may be, then you can focus on working on that, okay? If that makes more sense. So that is the goal. The goal is to make sure that we have what you need in order to attain your freedom. And everyone's freedom is going to be different, right? If you want a yacht, if you want a boat, if you want a chopper, whatever you want to get to the chopper, then you're going to need a different amount of income, right? If you just want a nice peaceful life with a log cabin in the woods, and you want to be able to go camping with your family, and you want to have an RV to take nice long family trips and go apple picking, then your subscription for life is going to be way different than somebody else who wants the mansion, who wants the yacht, and who wants the private jet. So in this case, that's what we're going to work on. But first, you have to look at the numbers. Look at your budget. Look at what your life actually costs. What are you paying on a monthly basis? What your car costs? What your house costs? What your lights cost? What your gas costs? What is your Netflix subscription and your Disney Plus subscription and your NFL football package and your shoe subscription and your shoe club, whatever. All of the things that you prefer in life and what you like, your medications, what you need, what your kids need, what the daycare needs. All of these things need to be written down. Go through your bank statements and find out how much positive cash flow you have. And now start thinking about where to put your money, where to invest, and how to buy your freedom. Because it can be done. Your subscription for life can be paid for by someone else because they want to. Not because you're taking money from them, not because you're doing any kind of crime, because you're offering a service that they want and they appreciate. Just like you. You don't think Nike is stealing your money when you buy shoes. You're like, oh, I wanted these shoes. They're fire. You don't think Gucci is robbing you when you go and pay, an extra $3,000 for a clutch purse that, to be honest, is it really worth $3,000? Probably not. But you don't feel like someone stole from you. You feel like you got something in exchange. And that's all we're doing. We're buying goods and services and assets, and then we're selling them to people who really want them. In exchange, they give us money. That money pays for our subscription for life so we can be healthy, wealthy, and happy. And we don't have to work so hard because, to be honest, work isn't enjoyable. Work's not fun unless you truly enjoy and have a passion for what you do. Like for me, I enjoy teaching. I like working with other people and helping other people. I do, and I thought medicine was going to be the main way that I help people, but it's fixed. I can only help people 12 hours a day, only at the hospital, and I can only reach so many people, and that's if you're my patient. So in this case, it's limited, and I want to be able to do way more than that. So in this case, again, like I always say, I want to wish you guys health, wealth, and happiness, and I'll see you guys in the next episode, and you guys take care. All right, have a good one.